Welcome, everyone. Here we are with the sports writers, Phil Stacy, Matt Williams, Nick Kukuru, all here joining us. Unfortunately, Nick Giannino, as we record on Monday evening here, is at a lacrosse game, so he cannot join us here tonight. Obviously, we'd love to have him to weigh in on the Celtics tied at 2-2, but we'll hold that for a little bit later on. So let's get right to our local sports scene. And Bill, I think we ought to just start with you and do some boys lacrosse. Matt and I were at a baseball game today, and Nick was at a softball. So we've got a lot of sports covered here. So
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry. Good lacrosse game today. Peabody won at Swampscott 6-5. Hadn't seen Peabody in a few weeks. It was my first time seeing Swampscott this year. Really the proverbial tale of two halves kind of game. Swampscott led 4-0 in the first half, excuse me. Was really playing well defensively. Timmy Sheehan was stopping everything that Peabody threw at him in net. He had 9 of his 16 saves in the first half. Swampscott was getting some balanced scoring between Jason Cottaspati, a couple from Christian Urbano, and who else was it that scored here? Geez, I should know this. Carson Palmer, thank you. But Peabody flipped the script in the second half, started getting ground balls. Their passing was a little crisper. They really tightened up on defense and won a lot of faceoffs, I should say, to keep possession. And they limited Swampscott without a shot in the third quarter. They got out to 4-3, tied it up in the fourth, back and forth, and then Ashton Souza with the game winner for Peabody with 50 seconds to go. Their own goalie, Antonio Anzalone, made a real nice save, 10th of his 10 saves with about 20 seconds left on Cottaspati and tight to preserve the win. So nice win for Peabody. They're 7-7 now, and I want to say that puts Swampscott at 6-8. I want to say.
Bill, I just got to drop a name here. I was at the first matchup between those two schools over in Peabody earlier this year when a tight one won by Swampscott. So yeah,
I want to say that was another one goal game.
I think
It?
so. Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, now that's Peabody's sixth one goal game. I'm already segueing into softball and baseball.
One TD, a one TD.
Yes.
Yeah.
One goal game of the year. So, like Coach Jason Marshall said, they have been resilient, if nothing else. They're hoping to get a few guys back from injury by this time next week. The big defenseman Trot Smith will certainly help them. And one of their two goalies, Aiden Height, should be back as well, maybe even by the end of this week. So that should help fortify the Tanners. They're in an interesting spot because that's a team that is not going to make the state tournament based on their power seeding. Division One is just too difficult with the schedule that they play. They're not going to qualify based solely on seeding. So they're going to have at least a 500 record or better. They're 7-7. They have, let me think, Marblehead, they have Beverly, they have Manchester Essex, and they have the Carlin. I said this to you the other day, Willie, the Carlin Cup, the Danish Cup with Bishop Fenwick a week from Saturday. So they need to win 2 of those games. Certainly capable of it. But whether or not they do so will be totally up to them. I would not suggest falling behind 4-0 in the first half like they did today. But we saw what they can do in the second half when they turn it on. So, they're hoping to qualify for the tournament in Marshall's first year as the head coach, and they have the ability to do so. They just need to play 4 quarters of consistent lacrosse.
Before we move on to other sports, Phil, is there other lacrosse that you want to touch on here? Any highlights? What should we know about what happened in the past week here, or where things are positioned right now?
Well,
Halfway.
I should mention that I think we've certainly talked about it on this podcast before, but with Essex Tech getting ready to go into the Cape Ann League starting in the fall of 23-24, their spring sports teams are kind of wrapping up the last go-round in Commonwealth Athletic Conference competition. And the boys lacrosse team is certainly doing that, and they have basically dominated the league for the last few years. I mean, Shawsheen has given them some battles, but they're going to be going through that this week. They routed Minuteman today, 12-2, and certainly nothing against it's Minuteman, but playing teams like that in their league is not doing Essex Tech any favors. It may give them a win, sure, but it doesn't help in terms of power rating. It doesn't help them in terms of getting ready for the state tournament. They need better competition, obviously, which is what the Cape Ann League will give them. But it's why this year they chose to play. They played Beverly recently. They're going to play Danvers at the end of this year. Some of those non-league games that they have where it's just a little bit better competition to get them ready for what they'll be seeing come tournament time, because they've already qualified for a postseason bid. But they do need to play these last few games against those CAC teams, and this will be it. And then they'll be moving on. And I don't think that they would be playing too many of them as non-leaguers in the future. Again, maybe like I said, Shashin, but certainly the Minutemans of the world will not likely be on the Hawks schedule.
All right, Nick Kukuru, what do you got for us? I know you were at a game today, but maybe fill us in on that. And also, as we speak on Monday evening, also fill us in on some other notes from around the Cape Ann area.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I was at Gloucester softball today. They handled Lowell Catholic 12-1. They're starting to hit their stride. They got off to a tough start. They were 2-4, but they're 7-5 now. So they're 5-1 in their last six. They had 19 hits today, eight players with multi-hit games. So they were kind of locked in at the dish right away. Cam Carroll, 4 hits. Ashley Aiello had 11 strikeouts pitching. I always want to say on the mound, but I know that doesn't apply to softball. In the circle, I should say, 11 Ks. But yeah, I mean, Gloucester's looking good. They beat Danvers on Friday. That was probably their biggest win of the season so far, 5-0. That avenged opening week loss to the Falcons back in April. And yeah, they're looking like they're playing their best softball at the right time right now. The defense has become good. They've always had the pitching, and now the offense is starting to come around too. That was kind of their 1 weak link was the offense a little bit, but they've been swinging the bats really, really hot lately. But yeah, the biggest news on Cape Ann, go Gloucester track. Both the boys and girls clinched the NEC Lynch today. They both beat Danvers. The boys won 69-67. It sounded like an absolute barn burner there. That had to have come down to the relay, and the girls won 83-53. Ailey Spencer with a couple first place finishes. Megan Hurd with a first and a second. Boys were led by Nate Gardner with 2 firsts and a second. Finn O'Hara with the win in the mile. Mike Toppin won the shot put. So they're pretty balanced. They're pretty well rounded, both teams all around. I believe the girls are 5-1. They've only lost one time to Marblehead. The boys are 4-2. They lost to Marblehead and Beverly, but 4-0 in the NEC Lynch division.
Nice. Matt, I think you were at a baseball game today. What happened there at Masconomet today with Beverly? I'm thinking Beverly might have pulled it off, but what happened?
Good day to be a Panther here. I was just reading about the Commonwealth Coast Conference play-in game, and a couple of Panthers doing some damage in the 9th inning. Tim McCarthy knocks home Sam Armbruster, both former players, with the tying run, and Suffolk goes on to win in 11 innings. And meanwhile, the Panther Pups that they left behind in the orange and black get a huge win over Masconomet on the road, 5-2. Was a 2-0 ball game. Masco in the bottom of the 6th come back to tie it at 2-2. Beverly responds immediately, 3 runs in the top of the 7th, and Noah Guanci slams the door in the bottom of the 7th. Goes the complete game, strikes out 10, gave up 2 or 3 hits, depending on how you score it. There were a couple of potential infield errors that, whatever the case, but, goes the distance, 10 strikeouts, just a great job there. And it was the 7th inning, an error put a man on. The number 9 hitter, the young pup, the shortstop, John Reyes, blooped one in to put the man on. A ground out moved him over to second and third for Logan Petrosino. And, he gets in a tough count, full count. 2 strikes on him, fouls off a couple of tough pitches, and then drops one into left field for the game-winning runs there. Ian Viznik, the fellow captain, adds an insurance run, but just a nice piece of hitting by Petrosino with 2 strikes on him. He's a little guy with really quick hands, and he's really one of the best 2-strike hitters that I've seen in the area. They were pitching him away today. He's a left-hander, and he took it, took it right there into left field. I know a couple of weeks ago, there was another fellow coach that was trying to pitch him inside with 2 strikes. And he said to me afterwards, he said, geez, this kid, you get 2 strikes on him, you pitch it inside, he's got such good hands, he tomahawks the ball away from you. So I guess this coach tried something different, today, pitching him outside, inside, outside, doesn't matter. Petrosino's got the hands to spray the ball all over the field. Just a really impressive job there, which makes the NEC race in the large, the done, whatever you want to call it. Masco's up by 1 game with 4 or 5 to play. So the race is on now, and we should give credit to Masco too. Nice piece of hitting by their 2 and 3 guys to get the game tied. Tyler Feldberg with the first clean single of the game, right through the infield, did a great job there. And then Logan Kuhn follows with a double on a really windy day, hit it high in the air and put it exactly where you want to put it in the wind there, and carried out to left to drive in the runs, and then came home on a fielder's choice. Good base running by him to get the game tied. So 2 pretty good baseball teams with a lot of good players on the field, and Beverly got the better of them this time to split the season series.
Willie, you mentioned Petrosino, and I think rightfully so. I mean, I love those kinds of hitters where you're mentioning the coach wanting to pitch him inside. He was saying to us after the game that he was hearing all their coaches saying pitch him outside, or hearing people, getting the buzz
exactly.
that Masco was going to pitch him outside. So there's no book on this game. Maybe you pitch him low, maybe you pitch him high.
Exactly. No, yeah, it was a different game a couple of weeks ago. A coach said, geez, we had 2 strikes on him, tried to pitch him inside, and he tomahawked the ball away from us. And then today, Masco was trying to pitch him outside with 2 strikes, and he got hits in that situation too. So you're absolutely right. Yeah, there's no book there for sure.
All right, Matt, want to share anything else on high school baseball as we've, we're at the halfway point here. So,
well, I think we're a little bit more than half. A lot of our teams have gotten more than half. I mean, at this point, 2 teams have qualified for the tournaments with 10 wins, both Salem and Beverly now. That was their 10th win today. And Masco is close. They got 9. And Bishop Fenwick is next closest. They got 8. And I should shout out quickly St. John's Prep, a heck of a ball game by them today. 3 sophomores doing all the damage for them. So, I mean, that's a team that already has 3 junior captains, and 3 sophomores do this in a 1-0 win against Xaverian. Sophomore Henry Hebert, the pitcher, goes the distance, 2-hit shutout, 9 strikeouts. Sophomore Nick Lembo in the first inning, leadoff triple, and sophomore Will Shaheen knocked him in later in that inning for the game's only run. So, I mean, St. John's is 7-5. They've had a couple tough games this year, but with all these young guys in the lineup, I mean, you can't overlook them this year, but you got to think that 24 and 25 could be state championship years for the Prep, the way some of these sophomores and juniors are playing over there.
Where are they looking at, Willie, in terms of a tournament berth? If you had to guess, like, where will they end up being slotted? Like, will they get a home game?
I would presume. I mean, so right now it really depends on how they finish out. Like they're not a team that needs to get to 10 wins. I mean, they're going to be in no matter what. At 6-5, they were, I think, 17th or 18th. So if they play really well in the second half and end up with 13 or 14 wins, I imagine they'll be a top 12, top 15 kind of team. If they stumble a little bit and finish with 9 wins, 10 wins, 11 wins, I think they'd probably be, maybe in line for a first round play-in game at home, and then maybe on the road. But so it really depends how they play. I mean, they got BC High, Catholic Memorial, Malden Catholic again in the conference. They played Lawrence twice, which is probably both winnable games.
Yep.
Central Catholic, top 10 team they play. So I mean, if they play really well and finish with 13 to 15 wins, I would think they'll be in the top dozen or so. And, if they stumble a little bit, I could see them falling a little bit. But I mean, even if they, if the sky was to fall and they finish 7-13 and lose out, I think they'll still be securely in the top 32. I mean, not that that's going to happen, but
right.
Worst case, they're not a team that needs to get to 10 wins to make the tournament, I don't think.
All
but
right.
interesting too that 2 weeks after they got hammered by BC High for the next 3 games, Dan Latarte went back to his bullpen strategy, 2-2-2 of the innings. And then their last 2 games, both wins, they've had long outings. Joe Williams threw 6 against Bill Ricker and was great, and then Henry Hebert throws the complete game today against Zavarian. So interesting. They've kind of gone back and forth between traditional starters and sort of that bullpen strategy. Will be interesting to see what they decide to use in the tournament.
You see more and more teams doing that as the year goes on.
I haven't personally. I mean, I think it's definitely possible as we get to some of these 3-game weeks with the pitch counts and stuff. From my personal experience talking to the coaches, it seems like they are more interested in keeping guys on schedule so that a guy can stick with his program, his running and his arm work and that kind of stuff. It's in other words, it's more important for him to know, okay, I'm going to pitch on Wednesday or Friday so I can do all my prep work and keep myself on schedule and stuff, rather than trying to kind of mess around and pitch every day type of thing. It seems like there's a little bit of, hey, these guys are creatures of habit and let's get them in the habit. Seems to be the strategy at this point. But I think, when you get to the state tournament, all hands on deck, that could go out the window in a hurry.
I think everyone was happy just to have some sunshine and 70s. Not too bad. Very nice
Yeah,
day.
finally, right? Beautiful.
Phil, other sports. Maybe we should just touch on softball for a little bit. I know Nick talked a bit about it, but Peabody just keeps rolling around along in the Northeastern Conference, right?
Is that to me? I'm sorry.
Oh, I don't know. Yeah, I suppose,
Willie's
yeah.
a little more versed than I am on,
Well,
on
you
all
should go to
things
Willie on
Peabody.
that, yeah.
I would
Yeah.
defer to him on that, but they have, yes. Willie, what's the latest with Peabody?
Well, I know all 3 Betancourts had home runs in the rivalry game against Bishop Fenwick the other day, so that was nice to see. I mean, for crying out loud, it's like you can't hold any of these kids down. I know in the ledger here, Abby Betancourt passed 400 career strikeouts, so that's a nice milestone. You get 300 and 400 in the same season, and you're only a junior. You got to be doing something right, But Fenwick still holding strong in the power rankings in Division 3, 13th and only going to move up. And I think softball wise, it just seems like, whatever Peabody's doing and these other teams, they're doing it right because the conference is getting some serious respect in these power rankings. I don't know if we talked about it last week or if it was maybe one of our private chats, but I mean, Danvers is number 9 and they're 7-3, I think with 2 losses to Peabody already. And they beat a pretty good Wakefield team today, non-league. And I want to say, did Gloucester beat Danvers last week?
Yeah, last Friday. Yeah,
So, I mean, that's
5-0.
going to be huge for Gloucester power ranking wise, too. And we shouldn't overlook Masconomet. The Chieftains sitting here at number 16 at 6-6. Usually, if you're an NEC team in most of these sports and you're 6-6, you're going to be like in the 40s someplace. So, to be 6-6 and 16th, I mean that's really good for Masco. I know their pitcher Amber Goudreau. She struck out 13 today to beat Marblehead. She's really good. She's really good. I mean,
I'm not even sure that ranking is right, Willie. Aren't they like 8-7 now after they won today?
I think it might be. Well, this is from Friday, right? So they'll be up
right.
as we chat here. On Monday night, I'm reading the rankings from Friday on my screen here.
Okay.
They'll be updated tomorrow morning as our listeners can go check out the updated rankings. But yeah, exactly. They're either 7-7 or 8-7 or something like that. So, that's just good to see. It tells you that it's a good league. And I don't know if Peabody is sort of pulling up everybody, with some of the games that they've played, but I know the tough non-league games Danvers has played is also pulling everybody up. And like I said, that's really good to see because a lot of these sports, girls basketball, boys basketball, whatever. I mean, if you're an NEC team and you're around 500, you're usually nowhere near the top 16. I mean, that's certainly been the case in baseball this year. I mean, Danvers baseball is, I think, 6-6 and they were 48th last week. And, Masco's got the same record in softball and they're 16th.
Go figure, right?
I mean, it's just, it just goes to show you the strength of the leagues. I mean, obviously, it seems like girls sports are a little bit stronger this spring, whether you're talking tennis, softball, or girls lacrosse. The NEC 500 teams in girls lacrosse all have pretty good power rankings too.
Yeah, they do. You're right. Whereas, like I said, in the boys lacrosse, Peabody is 500 right now after their win today. but I think in the latest power rankings, they were, I want to say like 40th out of only 51 teams. So they're going to have to get in, as I said, with a winning record. And Beverly was just over that threshold. They were 7-5 as of the latest power rankings. And I want to say they were 31st. So, it's a tough road for the Beveleys and Peabody's. I know no one's crying for anybody here, but I think it's tough for those schools being placed in Division One. They're really probably Division Two schools in most sports, but because of the size of the school, they're going to be placed in Division One. So, in softball, it works for Peabody. In lacrosse, it probably doesn't work for either one of those teams. Beverly Lacrosse got in last year, I think, as the 29 seed, I want to say, and they had to get on to Hingham and play. Right now, if the tournament were held, and I know it's not, but if it were, Beverly would have to play at BC High. I mean, it's not a fair fight, but it is what it is, and you can't do anything about it.
Yeah, exactly. And I think they're redoing some of these next year. I know Beverly's going down in a couple of sports. I don't know if Peabody is or not. So we'll see what happens when that all shakes out. It might even be different boys and girls, some of them.
Yeah, I keep hearing that Salem is going down Division 6 to football.
That's possible. I mean, I don't know that it's been finalized. That's definitely a possibility.
I keep hearing that. And might Gloucester move, Nick? Or no?
I don't believe so. I think they're sticking at 5.
They are, okay.
Well, yeah.
Okay.
And they're 3 and everything else except for hockey, which they appealed up to 2. So they would, they probably should be in 3 in that too.
I was going to talk about the rankings, but Willie, let me follow up with you, because you look at why is softball in the Northeastern Conference, more highly regarded than, say, basketball. I can get it, but where are these non-league games? Haven't these teams, wouldn't they have to have won some big non-league games in the Northeast Conference teams in softball this year? To
yeah, I mean,
there?
some of it is. Some of it is the margin.
Okay.
So when you win by more runs, you get more credit for that. Some of it is just.
Well, it's who you play too. I mean,
well, that's what I'm
saying. What Central Catholic, and they played Amesbury twice. So that certainly makes a difference.
That's it then. Yeah.
Yeah, Danvers. They've all played. Essex Tech is half decent. A lot of them. Beverly played some MVC teams too, so that's going to help the overall power ranking too. I would think, because they're usually pretty good.
Didn't Danvers play? Danvers played Fenwick recently, right?
Yeah, Wakefield too. Yeah.
Right.
So it's kind of it's kind of hit or miss, but it's a little bit hard to predict sometimes.
Even Beverly going out of conference. I think they played Malden Catholic and I want to say Wayland.
Something like that. I don't remember exactly. But yeah, they've played some tough teams and still have some tough ones left, I think.
Newburyport, I think they played too. Yeah.
There you go. Yeah. All right. I was just wondering that. I have one little tidbit here. It's kind of out of the Salem News readership area, but North Reading baseball coach Eric Archambault picked up his 100th win last week.
Oh, cool.
And then I guess win number 101 or 102, whatever it was this past weekend when they beat Newburyport 19-17 in baseball. How about that one?
I saw that. Yeah, that
19-17. Yeah. You look at that score and you're thinking that may be a typo, in the newspaper business. It's a typo or whatever, but apparently it wasn't. And so kind of a big week for North Reading baseball with with that win. And then the 19-7 win over Newburyport. Crazy.
No, that's crazy.
That's nice to see. It's always hard to follow a legend. So for the guy that come after Frank to get 100 wins, a lot of times, that's not so easy. I know Frank retired and wasn't forced out or anything, but still, usually you want to be the guy that comes after the guy that follows the guy, right? So that's nice for him to get to 100, and North Reading's been rolling along. Hasn't really missed a beat there in the new era.
No, I think it happened a week ago tonight. We're recording this on Monday, and it happened after our most recent podcast. So we should say congratulations to both Brooke Lamazny from Peabody for scoring her 100th career goal for the Peabody High girls lacrosse team, and Connor Cronin of Marblehead hit his 100th career goal for the unbeaten Marblehead Magicians. In fact, he's coming up on 200 career points. He's within about 8 or 10 of 200 career points. So congratulations to both Brooke and Connor for hitting that milestone. Pretty cool.
It seems like there's a lot more scoring in girls lacrosse than boys lacrosse. I mean, see, Brooke, I feel like Brooke's going to get like 100 goals in a season before she's done. So it's like, 100 in a career. You're just getting started here. It's like that sport just seems like it's really hard to stop anybody. Really high scoring.
Well, last year we
games,
had two players hit 100 goals. I think.
Right, exactly.
The Hamilton girl at Hamilton Wenham, and then
Maddie
McDonald at
too,
Essex Tech.
And Emmy Clark at Masco seems like she's well on her way this year too. So
Yeah.
a lot of scoring there, but the boys seems a little bit more. I mean, some of it's more than hockey scoring, but it's not 100 in a season type of thing.
That'd be a lot. I mean, you get the occasional 80 or 90, but yeah, it's difficult.
So you don't get those free position plays in the boys game, and
Which is the
actually
difference.
let you play defense in the boys game. I don't know.
Well, that's the thing.
Let you play
it
defense
seems
in the
like
girls game. I don't know why.
It almost seems like the girls' game needs a shot clock, like because you just kind of you can't defend, you can't attack the person with the ball, and they just can kind of pass it around, basically forever. It's like
I've seen it happen. I've seen Manchester Essex win a North title, shaving off 6 minutes with a 1-goal lead against Newburyport. No, it
wow.
was kind of brutal to watch, but I mean, smart at the same time.
It's like, as a defender, what are you supposed to do? Because it's like if you can't like touch them with your stick, right? Because like they're not wearing any pads or anything. It's like if you win the draw, you just kind of play the North Carolina game, 4 corners there. That's it's interesting. Anyway, as a layperson to the sport who knows nothing about it, I'm proposing rule changes here, so maybe that's a little.
All right, gentlemen, that's kind of the local scene here. We've got a lot of updates there.
I got a little something to say, if you guys will indulge me for a minute. I've seen.
I don't think we have a choice right now, Matt. Go ahead. Yeah.
Well, it's just some of this business about the artificial turf, right? I know this week, Masco, the Tri-Towns have some votes going on. And, I think personally it's long past time for Masconama to go to turf. They're the only team in the Northeast Conference that doesn't have it. I think it's embarrassing the way that they play their varsity grass games on the fields. I mean, Phil can speak to it. He's seen plenty of field hockey games up there, but I've just seen some literature, some posts online and stuff of people suggesting that turf could be dangerous. It could cause injuries or sicknesses or all this kind of stuff. And I just, me personally, on my forum here on the podcast, I want to say it's not. It's just not dangerous. We've all been doing this for a long time, guys. Feel free to correct me if you've seen all this rash of injuries that have occurred from the turf that we cover all these games on, but I just don't see it, and I just don't know where that comes from, and kind of just wanted to use our forum to say that.
People mix it up with AstroTurf because that's brutal. AstroTurf is brutal, but this isn't AstroTurf. It's basically synthetic grass. It's the same.
Exactly.
Right.
With the rubber crumbs and the same stuff that every other team has. And I guess that's my other question is if it's so dangerous, well, your teams are playing half their schedule on it for all their road games, right? So how could it be dangerous if they're not getting hurt during their road games?
And every state tournament game worth its weight in gold is played on turf.
Yeah, your school is forced to rent Danvers and Bishop Fenwick via tournament games, but it's a dangerous place. Like that just doesn't stand up to the test of logic, does it? I don't know.
Well, too, I mean, Matt and I were over at Masco, and like in field hockey, Masco plays on grass, and kind of at times it could be a little long, a little lumpy, and so on. It's a totally different game, field hockey, on that grass surface than it would be playing over at Danvers High or Beverly or one of the other turf fields for sure. Swampscott, you name it, just a totally different game.
Sorry about that. Was getting a call as we were speaking. See, job never ends. Even on the podcast, we're getting scores called.
You got a Woj bomb for us?
Yeah. Marblehead won. That's not exactly a bomb in lacrosse.
No. 55 in a row now or something?
No, that's
I caught that scoreboard while
I
I was over at the softball game. It sounded like Marblehead was having their way.
Yeah. I did want to ask, based on your opening thought there, Willie, on the turf. Somebody said that you can get sick from it. What, like eating it? Like,
Yeah, I don't know. I guess, there's been some pseudoscience that the rubber leaks into the water supply or, this kind of stuff. I mean, it's, I don't know. I don't think that's obviously not my area of expertise, but again, 11 out of 12 schools in the league have it. So, as far as I know, the people aren't getting sick playing on it. I mean, so it just seems kind of, you know, I don't know. It's like the California sticker you got to put on your lawnmower that says it's like, could cause cancer or something. It's like then you
right,
read online, well, it could, yeah, if you ate it, it could, but as
right.
long as you're riding it to cut your grass, you're fine, type of thing. So, uh,
Kind of like when they
there
had to
does,
start putting on the cups of coffee, like contents may be hot.
yeah, yeah,
Like,
exactly, right.
you
I
know,
think that's,
really? Oh my
I
God,
mean,
really? A hot cup of coffee could be hot if spilled. Wow, that's shocking.
well, certainly the four of us on the podcast right now spend a lot of hours between soccer, field hockey, and football in the fall standing on that stuff. So if it makes you sick, we're all in trouble.
Well, we're sick, but not in the way I think they're sick.
Right. Yeah. Well, yeah, that's true. This is true.
Maybe we're so sick we don't even know it.
Yeah,
You know
Yeah.
what
yeah.
I'm saying?
Might
You
be onto
know,
something, Bill. Yeah.
yeah. I mean,
It's like,
you got Nick
oh,
Kukuru just smiling up there. I don't know.
well, in something like this, I agree 100% with Willie. It's like the old, hello, McFly, hello. I mean, come on, come to the party here. Let's go. Yeah, you put in some money. It's an investment. It keeps the kids home, which to me, if you're a public school in 2023 and you actually care about athletics, you got to have a turf field to be taken seriously. I mean, come on. You're going to lose kids anyway. Why would you expedite that process by not having at least facilities that everyone else you play has? I mean, that's a giant disadvantage for you if you don't.
Yeah. Enormous. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and it's so fantastic where you got the facilities with lights where in the fall the soccer teams or field hockey teams can play night games. The maintenance is the field is up to par, then the maintenance is minimal, I would believe. Every several years you have to do stuff. I know that, but
I think people that cling to the past when it comes to stuff like this are literally just, they still drive in Edsels. I mean, come on, like you change with the times and things are newer, better, more modern, more cost effective. And that's what turf is. It's really laughable to not have a turf field for a modern North Shore high school in the year that we live.
Yeah. I mean, they say, oh, the soccer teams prefer to play on grass, the ones in Europe. And it's like, well, yeah, they do, but they don't live where it snows and they have one field that gets used once a week that they spend millions of dollars to maintain.
Right.
Like, that's not how it's going to work at a high school that has, 3 levels in most of these sports that all have to practice on at the same time. And then it's going to rain and it's not going to drain, and then
I mean,
it's going to
is that what
snow in the
we're
wintertime. Like that's not an apples to
so
apples
so the argument is like, well, grass is good enough for Wrexham, so now we're not gonna. I mean, it's asinine. That's foolish.
Well, you'll cherry pick. There'll be some, some millionaire soccer player. Oh, I don't want to play in America because there's too much turf, but I like the grass. And it's like, well, that's great, but they're
Idea.
not talking about all your major colleges here play on turf. Like it's not, the grass as it's maintained. I mean, the grass they play professional soccer on in Europe is like playing on a putting green. You know what I
Right.
mean? There's not going to be any fields on North Shore high schools that are that kind of quality. I mean, there's barely any golf courses that have that kind of quality because of the weather around here.
Right.
all right, gentlemen, we are really out of time. There's no wiggle room here. We're going to stop right now, gentlemen. Thank you so much, and we'll talk again soon.
Thanks, guys.